to continue on a permanent contract, and then the introduction and second reading of 2 ordinances that were moved from the first reading at the last meeting. So you'll have 3 minutes to make your statement, and I have Tim Holt here first. So Tim, go ahead whenever you're ready.
I am ready. Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is about the upcoming round of community organization grants, and I'd hoped to make some comments about them during a recent Finance Committee meeting, but I wasn't given the opportunity to speak by the committee chairman. So here in brief is what I wanted to say. As you know, the library is requesting $25,000 this year to help fund its operations. It's been getting more and more difficult each year to obtain TUT funding for the library. This year, the city's budget woes are cited as the reason for the difficulties, but I want to point out that this is really just the latest development in a long-term trend. The very first year after Measure P passed, all the money went to community organizations. Then the following years, I recall, some of the money went to sidewalk repair. And increasingly, what the people who voted for Measure P feared would happen is gradually happening. The city seems to be on a path toward absorbing all that money in the general fund and allocating very little to the community organization. This year, the library may get half the money it applied for, or almost half, and then in November, we'll see if it's going to get any more. At least that's what the Finance Committee recommended. But wait, maybe it won't get any TUT money at all if there's a grant available instead. So again, you can see where this is headed, year after year, making it more and more difficult for the library to obtain TUT funds after library supporters went door to door to get this tax measure passed. And now we have proposals for another sales tax increase on the November ballot. And I'll be interested to hear the discussion on that later. If you choose to go for a specific tax dedicated to law enforcement, requiring a 2/3 vote, you'll have fewer credibility problems because you will be legally required, as you know, to spend the sales tax increase revenues for that purpose. But if you go for a general tax with the understanding it will be spent on law enforcement, you are going to have some credibility problems with voters given the direction you're taking this year with Measure P funds. Year after year, library supporters appear before you to urge you to keep the faith with the city's voters. Year after year, we remind you why Measure P was passed by library and community pool supporters. I'm not so sure about this year, but in previous years, the council seems to have been listening to us. I can tell you this, if you do keep the faith with Measure P voters this year, you've got a much better chance of convincing voters to pass another sales tax increase. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. That's time. And I have Leslie Wild is up next, so go ahead whenever you're ready.
I guess I have a clarifying question. Is this public comment for the agenda overall, or is this just public comment for the consent agenda?
This is for general public comment for items that are not on the agenda, or you can address any consent agenda items within this comment as well.
Okay, so this is just a general public comment. And Todd is there. Okay, I do want to say, Todd, I wanted to make this comment the other night at the Finance Committee meeting, but you weren't there. So, and hi, Mr. Kenny, 6 weeks down, 6 to go. The comment I want to make at the Finance Committee meeting, and I will make it again tonight, is that, and I've made this probably 20 or 30 times over the last 6 or 7 years, so here I go again. When I was on the City Council, I went down to the Sacramento to the League of California Cities, and I attended a conference that told people how to form something called a JPA, a Joint Powers Authority. And it was for small cities to get together and commingle their limited resources. And so I thought that it would be a great idea if South County had its own police force. And I think right now it's very timely. Law enforcement issues are on the public's mind. And my idea then is just as good now is that the city of Mount Shasta, the city of Weed, and the city of Dunsmuir could join their budgets and have one South County Police Department. And I met with Mayor Hall at the time, and Mr. Palfini, Councilmember Palfini, and it was Tom Moore. He was the mayor of Mount Shasta, and me as a council member from Dunsmuir, and we talked about combining our budgets. And instead of the city of Weed having a police captain or a chief of police, and the city of Mount Shasta having a police chief, and us paying a sergeant and the sheriff's department, we could form one South County Police Department and have one chief of police, and have members from, like 2 members from the city council of Weed and 2 members from the city council of Mount Shasta and 2 from Dunsmuir that oversaw this police commission. And we could combine it. And it doesn't make sense to have a dispatch in Weed and a dispatch in Mount Shasta, and for us to pay the sheriff's department to have a dispatch up in Wairika. And now would be a very good time to look at how we need community police department. And our sheriff's department, their overall arching mission statement isn't compatible with what we need in Dunsmuir. I'm not sure if my camera's on. But it would be very advantageous now, and I would love to see a city council that's comprised of Juliana and Matthew and Peter, who ran on a platform of bringing new ideas to Dunsmuir to embrace this concept. Now would be a perfect time to do it. And you could take our police, the money that we dedicate to the sheriff's department, almost $450,000, and combined with the city of Weed. And I tell you what, the Bob Hall, mayor. All right.
So that was 3 minutes. Thank you. We have now Stephen Bryan. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
You're a little quiet, but if you want to speak up just a little bit.
Okay, hi, thank you. I just wanted to give an update real quick on the community center and what the resource center is up to right now. I'd like to second what Tim said earlier, but I do support any services and monies that have been awarded to the resource center in the past. But as you know, we distribute commodities now on a monthly basis, and next week we are doing commodities again. We were serving 90 people in the winter. We're up to 150 at this time. I just want to make sure that everybody who qualifies for commodities is on the list. So if you didn't receive any commodities, senior food boxes or regular food commodities delivered last month, then make sure you call the resource center at 235-4400 and get on the list. We will be delivering those through volunteer drivers on next Thursday, the 25th. We'll begin making deliveries in the mornings. The first deliveries that go out will go to seniors. So if you're getting regular commodities, you will get those later in the day. Please be patient. Our volunteers and staff are working hard to get that food out to the community. And also there's CalFresh benefits to the community. If you're not already available, or if you haven't already signed up for those, we can help do those applications with you at the center. We can also help you over the phone. There's millions of dollars available to the Siskiyou County area for CalFresh benefits, which are EBT cards you can use at the local grocery store to support jobs in the market and taxes that go back into the community. So if we can keep those monies local, that'll be a great benefit to Dunsmuir. Another way to help increase revenue in Dunsmuir would be for everybody to please fill out the census if you haven't already, and we can help you with that too. You don't need the code that they mailed you in the mail. It's very simple. It only takes a couple minutes to fill it out. It only asks a very non-invasive questions online. But when you fill that out, that brings $1,000 per year for 10 years to the city of Dunsmuir. So that's $10,000 per resident that fills it out, and those go directly to food services, to the city, and other programs. So those are a couple of ways that the citizens of Dunsmuir could also help out and generate more revenue for the community and help create more jobs. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Right, So I did receive one email from our city manager and Wendy, of a member of the public, I believe it's Barbara Martin. Barbara, if you're on the call, feel free to let me know if you'd like to give your 3-minute comment, or I'll just basically read the email that was submitted to us. So Barbara Martin sent us an email that said attached is a list of concerned citizens who would like the council to consider opening the community pool this summer. She would appreciate if we would share this list in their concerns with the council at the Zoom meeting this Thursday. And the attachment is basically a list of citizens that would like the pool open this summer. Okay. Are there any other general public comments on items that are not on the agenda or on the consent agenda that anyone would like to discuss? Again, you can go to the participants option in your toolbar and you go to your name and you'll see an option for some dots, 3 dots, and it'll have an option to raise your hand, and that's how I can unmute you. Here we go. Lori, could you give us your last name?
Hi, I'm Lori Strandberg. I'm co-owner of the Stens Burger Strand.
Okay, go ahead.
We would really like to see the pool open, and it's not about business because we actually probably lose money because we like to support the lifeguards. But we are in the group that has an 8-year-old who greatly benefits and has been talking all winter about being able to go off the diving board. I know we're not a minority, and it seems weird that we think we can't do it when we can do it, and Wairika can do it, and Reddy can do it. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to give a general public comment? If any issues finding the raise your hand, you can also go to the chat function and let me know that you'd like to give a general public comment. Oh. Pinky Creighton? Is that your correct name? Unmuted.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Hi, this is Pinky Creighton. I would just like to second what Lori just said. You know, it's something that kids really look forward to every summer, and sure, everybody could go to the river or the lake, but it's not the same. It's like the little kid spot where they all get to see each other, you know, and also the Montague pool is opening, which I'd like to add. So it seems a little odd that we're the only pool in our county that is trying to be closed. And I guess that's all I'd like to add. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we've got Paris Petrick. Go ahead.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
You're a little quiet, but
Okay.
go ahead.
I'll just come into the camera view here. Hi guys, I just saw on Facebook on the Neighborhood Watch page when I posted about the meeting and the agenda that someone had mentioned perhaps it might be a good idea to post reminders or the agenda on Facebook. And so I just wanted to put that out there as an idea, if that would be something that maybe the city might want to consider in hopes to get more people involved. Thank you.
Great, thank you. 1 second. So we have Barbara, but I don't have a last name on the list. Barbara, you're unmuted. Would you like to give a general public comment at this time?
Yes, I would.
What's your last name?
Martin?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. In the last few weeks, since we heard that the pool was not going to open, I've talked to many people in town, and some of them have approached me, talking about this because we feel like we really didn't have an opportunity to look into what was happening with funds or what might happen to the pool this year. Last year, we had a similar problem. Just about the same time, we discovered that the pool was not going to open. Last year, it was because there were some, in quotes, minor repairs that still needed to be done. With a lot of prompting from the public, we did get the repairs done and we did get the pool open. And I'm hoping, just for what I hear from other people, from parents and grandparents, I'm hoping that you can somehow revisit this decision. There's got to be a way around it. Last year we helped with the funding of the training for the lifeguards. We helped in as many ways as we could. And I'm hoping that somehow you'll see your way through to looking at this topic again. There is time. And if it happened that the pool couldn't be open for very long before school starts, we could still offer the pool open on, for example, weekends or evenings. It's so important. The kids have no sports teams in this town. They have no outlets. There's no skating rink. There's no nothing. This is it. And I think they need it. So that's all I want to say. Thank you for listening.
Great, thank you. All right, are there any other general public comments tonight? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to move us into our next item, which is item number 5, which is staff and member comments. So I'm going to take this moment really quick. So just to let everyone know, the city council did not vote to close the pool. So just to clarify, that decision was made by the Parks and Rec Board. And they're the ones who make decisions in relation to the Parks and Rec facilities. So I would encourage you talking to them about the decision. So just to kind of clear that up, we as a city council did not make any decision to close or open the pool, and you will have to take your comments to the Parks and Rec Board. So I'm going to now open up with staff first. So I'm going to go find Todd. City Manager Uhas, would you like to give your city manager report?
Sure. So a couple things. As of today, I don't know how many people saw the governor's press conference that he is, there were a lot of details in it, but it's now made it mandatory statewide to wear a mask at work, whether you're indoors or not, and absolutely have to wear a mask outdoors, no matter what activity you're involved in, except if it involves hiking or somewhere where you're outdoors and you have significant space between you and other folks out there. So this mask wearing also covers public meetings if they decide to meet in person. And surprisingly, if you are in, if you're working and in an office, you have to wear a mask while you're at work. So that's one thing. We just rushed through this week trying to file an FAA grant finally, and we're going to be awarded the funds. We actually had a bid opening last Friday and made an award, and we're working with the FAA on the final details of it. But from what we're hearing from the FAA, they want us to move forward with reconstructing the runway this summer, though we're trying to figure out how to do that to ensure that we have the ability to land choppers here for the Forest Service and CAL FIRE for fire events. So those are a couple things going on. There are many more. If anybody had questions, I can certainly fill them in.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Todd, could you just lay out the numbers there so people realize, and also emphasize 2 or 3 times as you do it, that this is no match?
Yeah, typically there are 2 places that require match when you get an FAA grant, and that is you typically have to have state aviation funds, and you've got to also have city funds to match. In this case, through the CARES grant, there is no city match requirement and there is no state match requirement. And my understanding is there's a very good chance of the second round of CARES Act funding coming out, which would allow us, if we're shovel ready, to reconstruct the apron, which is, for a lot of people that will be a confusing term, but it is the approach getting to that runway.
So we're talking 2 or 3 million, right?
I forget what the final bid was exactly. It's around $2.5 million. They actually wanted to slightly decrease some of the overrun areas at the airport. And I think it's gonna be safe. It's just, but we'll have a brand new reconstructed airport, and no matter what you think about the airport, it is my opinion that we're in a better position if that runway is in great shape rather than in terrible shape. Whether we want to start charging more rents for the use of it, whether it's the fire service or CAL FIRE, other users of the airport, or if we can find somebody that's really interested in taking this airport on and purchasing it. So I think we're in a better spot by taking this, and especially because it's not costing us any money.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions from our council members for City Manager Newhouse? Right. Seeing none, we're going to move to Councilmember Comments, and I'll begin with Councilmember Deutsch.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought a lot about what I'm going to say right now, and I could probably do better by just not saying anything, but I really feel like I have to. The reason that the pool is not being opened is because of the COVID-19. The reason that we didn't have schools is because getting children together in one place on an extended period of time, despite the fact that it would be outdoors, is still a source of danger. The reason that the rec board decided and made the difficult decision was because they realized that one child getting sick down there, taking it back to the grandparents, could start a whole series of infections here in the city. I know that unfortunately the idea of mask wearing has become political. I have been marinated in science. This is about science. It's about the idea that if you go outdoors and you don't wear a mask and you go into a building, you have a good chance of catching a disease if it's there. So I just really want to say, and I'll stand up and say it, I believe that we should be wearing masks. I support the wearing of masks. I encourage people to wear masks. This is not political, it's science. And the reason the pool isn't being opened is because the members of the board decided they could not take the risk of having some child get sick and starting an epidemic here in the city. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on to the other council members, I believe Ben Wetstein is here and would like to give his update. Ben, do you happen to have audio, or do you want to give an update? Well, I'll wait for a little bit and see if he gets his audio going. Ben, is this you? Okay, we'll just move on to, oh, Ben, is that you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Is it my turn?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so sorry I'm late. I had a call I had to deal with that got me here late. So just a real quick overview of the May statistics, where we had a total of 578 patrol hours. We had 258 calls for service in Dunsmuir. We pulled 20 cases. We had 43 traffic stops, 26 citations. We had 9 arrests, of which 1 was a felony booking, and we also had 12 misdemeanor bookings. We had a felony domestic violence arrest on Dunsmuir Avenue, misdemeanor arrest for possession of methamphetamine and drug paraphernalia on Florence Loop. We had a misdemeanor domestic violence arrest on Dunsmuir Avenue, a misdemeanor arrest for vandalism and assault on Dunsmuir Avenue, misdemeanor DUI and hit and run on Siskiyou Avenue, misdemeanor causing a disturbance on Dunsmuir Avenue, and misdemeanor arrest for possession of methamphetamine and possession of drug paraphernalia on Sacramento Avenue, and then 2 misdemeanor public intoxication arrests on Sacramento. We did have 1 burglary on Dunsmuir Avenue last month, 5 thefts, 1 on Gray Street, 2 on Siskiyou, and 2 on Dunsmuir Avenue. We had 1 assault and battery on Dunsmuir Avenue, 8 domestic disturbances, no vandalisms, 23 school checks, and 17 disturbing the peace calls. Any questions for me?
Seeing no questions, thank you so much, Ben.
Okay, thank you.
And don't worry about being a little late. You're okay.
Yeah, all right, thanks.
Yep. All right, City Manager Uhas, you had another comment you wanted to add?
Yeah, I thought no matter where you land on the opinion of cannabis, council passed, the ability to cultivate and manufacture and participate in retail locations here in the city. And I'd like to pass along that we have issued our first cannabis business license for manufacturing, cultivation, and distribution. And we have a second entity that managed to get everything in, and they are ready to have their retail business license issued, as well as their conditional use permit. That they've met all those conditions. They'd like me to hold off until Monday for some reason, but that's ready to go. And we have a third retail location in Element 7 in the old bank building that they only have one remaining thing with the state that they need to complete, and we'll have that retail location up and running. And what that means in a very down tax environment, it's good news in that we're going to be seeing some new revenue sources coming in from economic development.
Great, thank you so much. Are there any questions on that, council members?
Nope, great day.
All right. Seeing none, Councilmember Keisler, you have any comments for tonight?
No, I just have to say that I have to concur with the rec board's decision to close the pool. When it comes to the kids, man, I would rather play it safe than sorry. And now that the governor has issued the mask wearing, and if you guys take a look at it, there's like 5 or 7 states that are, it's increasing. We happen to be one of them. We are fortunate enough that Siskiyou County isn't one of those, but it's because of the precautions that we have been taking. I concur with Bruce's statement that as much as I hate wearing a mask. Damn, I hate wearing a mask. But, if it's going to save my life, my wife's life, somebody else's life, and then when we come down to our kids, it ain't up for debate. I'd rather play it safe than sorry. So, Mike, I know you had your whole board, you guys had a rough decision to make, but I stand behind your decision. And there's been a lot of talk about all the things that we've had to close, the Brew Fest, and I had a talk with Jim Powell about his Metal in the Mountains, and as much as he had to admit it, but he thinks it's best that he has to cancel that too. But again, better safe than sorry. And what is sorry? Sorry's dead. And I'm not looking for that. So, we'll come back next year. I'll be the first one in that pool.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Keisler. Councilmember Bryan, do you have any comments for tonight?
I do, yes. I'd like to join my fellow councilmen in supporting the Park and Rec's decision, but I'd also like to join all the citizens in their public comment. I too really wish the pool could be open, and look forward to the day when it will be. It's COVID-19. It's not any of the other issues that faced the pool last year. We're working to solve those. Just earlier tonight, we appointed members to the Parks and Rec Board. And the Parks and Rec is a separate functioning entity. They have a budget of about $160,000 a year, and they manage a lot of different projects within Dunsmuir. But I'd just like to say that we've heard from you. During the survey that the mayor conducted, I believe the pool came in second or third. So we understand how important it is to the community. It is not going away on any sort of permanent basis. It's just part of this global pandemic that's hit the world this year. I'd like to congratulate all city staff on the cannabis license completion. That first came about over 2 years ago. that we legalized it, and it's been a long road towards having any sort of functioning economy, and I'm certainly looking forward to the city bringing in that revenue. And the citizens decided to tax and regulate, and we'll finally be at that point. The other thing I'd like to point out is the Finance Committee has been quite busy. If the gentleman who made the comment, Mr. Holt, earlier had stated the completion of the Finance Committee's deliberations, it's a very difficult year balancing budgetary constraints. And there's some hopeful news if we don't have a spike in cases that we'll be able to be back on track. But had he stayed, he would have at least been able to see that the Finance Committee at least unanimously voted to support the school or the library this year. So the statement that there was any sort of decision from that body was slightly inaccurate, but everything is being discussed because these are very difficult times. Pool closing, not because of financial or human resources constraints, is a difficult time. So I just like to encourage everyone to attend the next Finance Committee meeting on Monday, where the state of Dunsmuir's upcoming budget will be discussed in depth.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Arth.
No comments, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. And my comments for tonight will be fairly short. I understand the difficulty that this year has posed to a lot of people, but there are some innovative new things that people are doing. The virtual run walk for the 4th of July. So instead of doing the run walk together group, they're promoting this run walk virtual event. There's a lot of other cities promoting these types of programs to engage kids specifically, to still get them out and running in healthy ways. So, it is sad not to have that. It's a social service in a way for some families who use it for their kids' activity. It is our decision, and I support the Parks and Rec Board for doing that. One of the things that we can do is, it is a good year then if the pool's not going to be open, to go for funds and do some major changes to the pool. So I encourage everyone to reach out to the Parks and Rec District and see if there's something you can do to help either apply for additional grant dollars to fix up additional things at the pool, and just see how that we can do better. I understand we may not be able to open and do what we want this year, but maybe this gives us an opportunity to improve things and open up even better next year. And so it is really hard to do those things, but there's definitely other things to do. So if people are interested, there's a lot of urban planning scavenger hunts that kids are doing, taking photos and getting familiar with their communities and learning new things, going out into nature. I know one of the things they can't do is go to some of the safer places on the river and practice social distancing, or to take your kids out and go hiking in the surrounding wilderness and be able to keep that social distancing. There's a lot of other things we can do. And I know Steve and Brian at the Community Resource Center has been working with a number of different agencies to help for different types of social programming. I know kids' activities may not be the highest one up there, but I know that they've hosted things at the garden before and have been very good about creating new types of events. So maybe we just need to get a little creative with our kids this year and maybe just talk to them about it. Kids sometimes have some of the best ideas for what we can do to improve ourselves and improve our time here. So it's rough. This entire year has been really rough for all of us on a number of different issues. But in good news, I talked to a couple of the Mountain Bike Association individuals, and they are making headway with a couple of the private forestry properties surrounding Dunsmuir to develop some mountain bike courses around the ridges of Dunsmuir. They're working on some proposals right now, and hopefully we'll be approaching the city for supportive letters and maybe co-signing grants with them to be able to do these mountain bike trails. Again, it's just another example of something that we can do with our kids outside of the pool. So that's been going really well. And then the only other thing is still working on some additional code enforcement options with City Manager Hugh Haas and trying to clean up some of our codes. And taking a look at that. We have some, if you ever want to giggle, we have some really, really interesting old codes that mandate certain things that aren't really a thing anymore. Like the train cannot go more than 45 miles an hour through town, which I'm not sure how you enforce that or even tell. So, just doing a couple internal things, assisting the city manager with that. But other than that, I'm going to move us through. Are there any other comments from council members? All right, seeing none, we're going to move to, I know, Councilmember Brian, you mentioned the Finance Committee already. Is there anything else you'd like to report for the committee reports?
No, in fact, if we can, I'd like to suspend item D later on, because the Finance Committee has been working on the budget and we're not quite at a point of completion yet. But I imagine, working with staff, we should be there by our next meeting on July 2nd. So I think we'll hold off on all that discussion because it's a very lengthy one until next meeting.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Arth, did you have anything to add?
Well, it occurs to me as a participant in the Finance Committee meetings that as the city's budget moves to the City Council, I would hope that either you or the city manager would invite Supervisor Valenzuela to zoom in and give us a picture as to what's going on with the county budget, everything from their revenue estimates to basic public services, including the sheriff's office. And is there any insights from him at the county level that will help us adopt our budget? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any other committee reports? All right, seeing none, we're going to move into item number 7, which is approval of the minutes. And actually, we approved our special meeting minutes at the special meeting earlier. So tonight we have on the docket City Council regular meeting minutes for June 4th, 2020. Is there any discussion on approval of regular meeting minutes?
I make a motion to adopt the regular meeting minutes.
All right. Motion by Councilmember Keisler, seconded by Councilmember Bryan to approve the minutes as submitted. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Councilmember Coach?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler?
Aye.
Councilmember Arth?
Aye.
And myself is also an aye. Motion carries and minutes are approved. And again, we already approved the special meeting minutes at the special meeting. So moving on to consent agenda, item 8. We have 4 items tonight. Consent agenda item A is approval of check register for May 30th, 2020 through June 12th, 2020. Item B is a resolution in support of appointing Wendy Perkins as Deputy State Clerk. 8C is resolution in support of extending solid waste contract with Perkins while negotiations continue on a permanent contract. Item 8D, which is the introduction and second reading of, I believe, 2 ordinances, if I'm correct, and they are in the packet. Second reading of an ordinance establishing a code enforcement administrative process and an appeals process. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda?
I make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I just have a clarifying question real quick, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
On item C, any thoughts on the time frame for the negotiation?
City Manager Uhas, I know. Well, we've come communication with Clemens and are working with a consultant that worked with Summit up in Mount Shasta, but I'm not sure if you have any update on the time frame.
I don't. We've been talking, and we have the consultant reaching out to work on the negotiations for us.
Okay, but it seems likely that we won't be in the situation this time next year.
We have to get it this year. We have to get it done. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Arth, you have a question?
Well, just related to Matthew's question, this is an important item to me, and I hope to the community. The current visioning effort, I can't remember where this issue placed in terms of importance, but for the last 10 years, a number of citizens are very interested in improving our green waste program, very interested in improving our recycling program, very interested in improving our fire safe efforts. So I hope that the community is involved and the council is involved in these negotiations rather than having them be closed door and then we're presented with an outcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilmember Deutsch.
was there a second?
No, there wasn't.
Well, with that in mind, I'd like to take the opportunity to look at item B and not pass this up. It's just a vote and welcome the services of Wendy Perkins as Deputy City Clerk. I think she's doing a fantastic job, and I'll continue to think she'll do that. I second the motion.
All right. So there's a motion by Councilmember Keisler to approve consent agenda.
Adopt.
Sorry, go ahead.
You adopt the consent agenda.
Yes. To adopt consent agenda items 8A, B, C, and D, seconded by Councilmember Deutsch. Any other discussion on the motion at hand? All right. Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Councilmember Deutsch?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler?
Aye.
Councilmember Arth?
Aye.
And myself is also an aye. Motion carries. Consent items are adopted. And then City Manager Uhas, if you could get us an email just to let us know what the timeline is that we're hoping for on Clemens' item. I think that would be helpful for us all to have.
Congratulations, Wendy.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
And also
Wendy.
congratulations, Wendy. All right.
Doing a great job.
And Wendy says thank you. There are no public hearings tonight, and there is no old business. I'm going to move us right away into item number 11, new business. So we have 4 items tonight to consider. First up is 11A, a resolution requesting the county elections clerk to place 2 measures on the November 7th ballot to enact a 1.5 cent sales tax. We do have City Attorney John Kenny on the line, I believe. I hope. We didn't lose him. Okay, he's just muted. All right, John, I unmuted you, and then City Manager Uhas and City Attorney Kenny, if you'd like to take this item, go ahead.
So John, do you want me to tee this up?
I can do it if you will.
Sure.
But I like this idea of mooting and unmooting people. You know, if we could do that walking down the street, it'd be great. So what you have before you is, actually you have 2, the agenda shows 1, you have 2 resolutions. And these are asking the elections clerk to consolidate an election where the city would put on a special tax, a sales tax, to increase the sales tax. You originally had a resolution, and you still do have, a resolution that asks for 2 ballot questions, and they will have competing ballot measures. One's a general tax that only requires a majority vote, and the second is a special tax that requires a 2/3 vote. And the special tax would be used for public safety, basically police and fire protection. If the general tax passed, whatever happened to the special tax, it would be superseded by the general tax. So only one measure could prevail.
Question, John, is it the other way around? If the special passes, that takes, and if not, then it's the other?
If the general tax passed, the special tax would be superseded, even if it passed.
Even if it passed, John?
Yes.
Okay,
That doesn't seem what we're looking for.
Well, you know, we've discussed this at great length in the Finance Committee, and we were all largely there, led by the wisdom of our city manager on the issue of whether to go for 2/3 or the simple majority general tax. Todd, could you share with us what you shared?
Right. So what I find with this is very unusual to put 2 measures on the ballot, one superseding the other if it passes. So my concern is, one, the idea in this environment that you're going to get a 2/3 vote. Well, it's obviously it's most desirable to have them go to a very specified purpose. I don't think we're going to find those votes. The other thing to consider, so I'm leaning towards, very much leaning towards a general tax requiring just a majority and laying out what are most vital services that we need to protect. Again, it would be public services and solid waste, and and there's some others. But the idea, I guess, that my biggest concern is if you have two tax measures on the ballot, no matter how well you write the preamble for either one of these measures, there are a lot of people that are going to see two tax measures on the ballot and they're just going to say no. If you have one and you have a very succinct and clear two-sentence description of what that general tax is going to be used for, I think that's our best chance for adoption.
There's an issue. I think there may be some confusion. A special tax, as you know, takes a 2/3 vote. And if that passed, the funds could only be used for police and fire, public safety, basically. If the general tax passed, you would be raising the same money, but you can use it for any general fund purposes. So normally, the city council would prefer to have a general tax because it can be used for general purposes. You have more discretion over the expenditure of the money. So,
Madam Mayor?
Councilmember Deutsch, go ahead. Is it a quick question?
Yeah, it is. So basically, I think that what we were trying to do, the reason we were trying to do both was we thought that the special tax might be able to lure more people into voting yes because they would have understood that it would have gone directly to the police, let's say, which everyone wants to have. But what you're saying is that, if I'm hearing it correctly, we really don't have that ability to have that flexibility. We have to pick one or the other.
No, we have the flexibility. I think the concern is that people won't read the fine print. They'll just see two tax measures, and that might be overwhelming, and they're wondering what kind of tricks we're up to, and that may lead people just to vote no. But clearly, the special tax and having it dedicated to a specific purpose is definitely preferable, but getting 2/3 of the vote, I have seen a lot of places that have been successful at that.
what the city council would be doing is betting, I guess, really, thinking that you could put it on as a special tax and that would be more attractive to the voters than a general tax. That's normally what happens.
But it'd have to be 16% more attractive.
Yeah.
To barely pass.
Yes.
Hey, Bruce, keep in mind, me and you are both going to be on this ballot, so. Damn.
There's also a second resolution that asks only that the general tax be put on the ballot. So you have the option, well, and you can do anything else you want to do, but with the resolutions in front of you, you have the option of putting two tax measures on the ballot or just the general tax.
But the general tax, John, you don't think will either way, people are going to see tax. And the more, like Todd said, the more clarifying and the more people understand what that money is dedicated for, the more chance we might have of making it pass. The difference is 2/3 or the majority. Is that correct?
Special tax is 2/3, general tax is a majority. And I'm the lawyer, not the politician. I don't know which one, if either would pass. I'd be a little concerned about putting two on the ballot together. That might generate some confusion, but again, I'm the lawyer, not the politician.
Right. So just for clarification, we're in clarifying questions, and Peter, go ahead.
Well, two questions. The first is, as I understand it, the measures are drafted so they will raise the same amount of money.
Correct.
Correct.
The second question is, how long does our council have before we have to decide neither one or both?
I think
Pretty much tonight.
Tonight.
We're up to the wire with this. COVID kind of slowed down the process we've been engaged with since last summer with this tax.
Yeah. If we do not make a decision tonight, we would need to call a special meeting within the next couple of days and get this, because we not only do we have to do this approval and send it to the county, we also need to make sure the county doesn't kick back our language, which they typically do. They're very particular about how things should be written, to make sure that there's enough time in there to make sure things are all put together correctly.
Thank you.
Right? Any other question? Go ahead.
Yeah, if I may, there's a couple more points I'd like to make.
Go ahead.
The tax is 1.5% or 1.5 cent increase. There is a disagreement between the county auditor controller and I guess everybody else as to whether the city it has room, if you will, authority to increase it 1.5%. I think they do. The state seems to think they do, but the auditor and controller for some reason, the county auditor and controller for some reason, and I don't know what that reason is, frankly, thinks that we only have the authority to do 0.5 cents.
Is that for both the general and special, or is it just for one?
Yeah, it's for both.
Okay. So we would have to basically, if we decided tonight, that gives you some time to basically argue the case with them.
Well, I spent a lot of time on this, as did Todd and everybody else, trying to figure out what the concern was, and I haven't been able to do that. So I guess, my recommendation is if we're going to go with anything, we go with the 1.5. Yeah. I'm not sure the 0.5 is going to help you much if it ever passed anyway. So that would be my recommendation.
I think he's wrong.
And there's one other point I need to make. What we have to do, if you guys want to go ahead with this, we have to notice a public hearing on these tax ordinance, the tax ordinance or the tax ordinances, whatever you decide to put on the ballot. And we've taken the liberty of and they have to be noticed public hearings, and then there was a short time on that. So we have noticed the public hearing so that we meet the deadline. And what would happen is, if whatever you put on the ballot, we'll send to the public hearing. At the conclusion of the public hearing, if 2/3 of you wish to put the measure on the ballot, then we'll have a resolution that goes up to the county clerk saying these are the measures that were adopted. If you act tonight, we have a placeholder. These measures don't go on the ballot. The consolidation resolution will be there, and there'll be a placeholder for these 2 or 1 tax ordinances.
Councilmember Arth, you have another question?
Yeah, if the council decided tonight to do both measures, general and special, and then we get to September, we've heard a lot more from the community, including the business community, and we think one is a stronger idea than the other, can we kill the weaker one, or are we stuck?
No, we're stuck. It's on the ballot.
Okay.
An additional question, City Manager. You know what the relative cost of putting 2 versus 1 would be?
The special tax, I believe, is just over $20,000 to float, so it's expensive. The general tax, I'm not sure on.
In this for a special election.
Correct.
I had options there. So is that price tag if we went to a special election outside of this general election in November? Or is that for this ballot in November?
This is for this ballot in November.
Okay.
I didn't realize the normal ones were that expensive.
I thought it was between 10 and 12. Not 20.
I can recheck.
Well, wait, if I may, what happens is, I believe, is that the clerk, election clerk will determine the cost of putting on the ballot all the measures that the cities or whoever are putting on the ballot. Then they split the cost between the applicants. So we would be sharing it. I don't know what's going on the ballot, but we'd be sharing it with other people. If we had a special election, we'd pay the whole cost ourselves.
Right. We could go down if this is a large election with lots of county and state measures.
All right. Are there any other questions before I open this up for public comment?
So just for, and not to beat a dead horse, but so the discussions with the state were today that we're at 7.75%, and the max that we can get to, according to the state, is 9.25, which is that 1.5%. Some cases, and we looked at the tables, and you know, there are cities cities all around the state that have taxes up to 9.25, and in some certain circumstances, like LA County is 9.5, but they have cities within LA County that got, you know, they went through a process and they have much higher sales taxes.
Yeah,
so
upwards of 20%.
So you know, when we last considered this, which was, I don't know, October, November last year, that I got in writing from the state that we had 1.5%. We could go to 1.5%. Now, to my knowledge, nothing has happened since then that would change that. I think that the auditor controller has a view that what other agencies do for sales tax somehow impacts the sales tax that's authorized in the city. I don't know that's my guess, and I don't know any legal basis for that, but she may have some.
And I might just remind folks that don't remember, we have a 0.5% sales tax that's in place now that is due to sunset in, I believe it's 2026.
Great. Any other questions before I move into public comment? Seeing none, we're going to open this up for public comment. If anyone would like to publicly comment on this item, you'll have 3 minutes. You can either go to the participant option and go to next to your name and raise your hand. It can unmute you for your 3 minutes, or you can let me know in the chat if you'd like to have your 3 minutes to discuss potential resolutions requesting to have 1 or 2 measures on the November 7th ballot, and if they would be a special or general tax. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone raise their hand, and I'm not seeing anyone in the chat function. So I'm going to close the public comments, and we'll now move into discussion. So I'll begin with Councilmember Arth. Would you like to start us off with discussion on this item?
Well, I simply reinforce that the Finance Committee has spent a long time on this issue and came very close to a consensus in our last meeting to go with the single general tax, pretty much based on the arguments of the city manager. I did listen to Tim Holt say, from his perspective, we may be better off with the special tax and the dedication feature based on suspicions that if it's an unrestricted tax increase with revenues going into the general fund, the city will not be trusted to spend it on what it's supposed to be spent for. So at this point, pending the comments of my colleagues, I do think there will be a confusion if we put both of them on, and I think the general tax is probably the better way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to let members of the public know, we already had the public comment open, and we've already closed it. So I will not be calling on any members of the public at this point in our discussion. All right?
And Madam Mayor, on that point, I can be corrected by the chair of the finance committee, but I believe if the city treasurer was participating in this meeting, his opinion at our last finance meeting was to favor neither tax.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Keisler.
Excuse me, Peter, you said his opinion was to favor neither tax?
Checking with Matthew, that's the way I heard it.
He had trepidation about the tax altogether, but he did say we need to do something, and this has been the plan. He wants to look into all sorts of other forms of taxation if it doesn't work. He thought long and hard about it. He doesn't know which one would be better to do, the special tax or the general tax.
Well, see, I'm on the fence too, because after listening to Tim, he's right. You know, some people, we all know Dunsmuir people, they're a little suspicious anyway. So if we tell them that the special tax this is strictly for police and fire, then you might sway that vote. But then again, if you go on a general tax, this is a tough one. Well, the general tax would be the easiest way, but I truly believe, I truly believe that we should put them both on there and give the people the choice. But it's up to us to make it clear for them.
Well, one of the difficulties with, I think we had Shasta County had a police, public safety dedicated tax that was 66, 2/3 majority. It didn't pass, but it's hard because part of the narrative here is we take the money and use it for other things. If we go back to say Mr. Holt's comments from earlier, the other things we have been spending the money on is police, fire, and code enforcement, public safety, very essential things for a city. So that
it still would come out of the general tax. Is that right, Matthew?
Well, what I mean is the police need is, we spend $500,000 on just police alone, and we have to cut back hours. You were right with us in that thing, and then we got a loader that's about to break that's $300,000. So in a way, being general isn't so bad because we're going to always have the incentive to spend it where it's needed most. And currently, I think fire, law enforcement, and some of our public works is the main place where it's needed. And that may change in the future, so it gives us the flexibility. But I wish we could dedicate it. I really wish we could dedicate it and make it 50%. But I've thought a lot about it, and I just don't feel comfortable with that 66% threshold. Not a lot of things pass in democracy by that threshold. Period.
All right. Madam Mayor?
Wait, I get a chance to talk.
Yep, I'm going to go through everybody first,
right.
and then we can circle back.
Okay.
Do you have any other discussion points you wanted to?
No, I was ready to make a motion, but go ahead, Bruce.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to go Councilmember Bryan. Did you have any other discussion you wanted to add?
I just wanted to say that, I recognize and sympathize with the discomfort of trying to raise a tax. I don't think anyone up here on council was overly interested in putting a financial hardship on anyone in town. But that, I commend us because this is a pivoting point for the city. We either decide we're going to stand our ground, value things, just like the pool and library, but also like law enforcement and trying to fix our sidewalks. We have to get in front of our budget shortfall if we don't want to have to lay off our employees and kind of close up. And it's very uncomfortable. I wish we weren't here, but I'm proud of us for trying to go forward with this. And when it comes to either or, I was excited about the two options, but I've been persuaded by the city manager. I just don't think we get the 2/3 majority in this county, period.
I concur with you.
Councilmember Deutsch.
Thank you, ma'am. I just want to start off by giving some data to back up what you all are saying. If you look back on the two attempts that they had to pass the sales tax that went into Measure P, the first one had a voting average of about 60%, and so it didn't pass because it needed 2/3. The Measure P that did pass had a voting average of about 60% as well. So taxes, you could say here in the area, 60% are the ones that are probably going to vote, and if you want to expect to get anything greater than that, you better have something really good to go with. So I really do support the idea that we pick one and go with the 50%. I appreciate the work of the Finance Committee in getting to this point. I was glad that I was able to hear both Peter and Matthew give their share of views, and I support their views. So that's my comment. I think that the most important thing we need to do going forward, which is the next item, is to make sure that people understand that what we're dealing with here is not one problem or another, but the problem is that the budget that we were working under has grown to the point where we no longer can use the existing revenue to meet it. And that's just part of the life, and I think that's the message we need to get out there and just be honest about it and explain to them that if you look around at all the different things, inflation has caused us to reach the point where we needed to readjust our revenue stream, and as unfortunate as that is. So that's my comment.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Deutsch. I might differ. I'm going to go off the beaten path. I'm actually in favor of going for a special. I think with a concerted effort, again, the city, just to clarify for the general public, once these are on the ballot, the city cannot promote anything or use any public funding to promote, one way or the other if you should vote yes or no for a measure. And so the effort, the materials, the effort have to be done completely by private individuals or a nonprofit. But I think that public safety is a huge issue for a lot of people, and people understand. We did have really good numbers putting police services as the #1 ranked thing that people want to see improved or continued through those surveys. We have really good discussion points within the qualitative questions in that survey too. A lot of people talking about code enforcement, a lot of people talking about police services, animal control. I think we can do it personally. And I'm normally not the optimistic one. I'm a little bit more pessimistic, but I think as a group, I think people have to definitely step up and really push this. And I think if people really want to see public safety improved, we can get some people together to really canvass and do a lot of education on that. So I would be in favor of a special tax. I would be against both. I think that's going to confuse the voters. And again, going back with the city manager's recommendation, I would not sign on to both. If we have to do a general, I'll yield to the majority of my council members, but I don't think it's a good idea to do a general with a percentage this high. I think if we were going for another 0.25% on the sales tax, a general wouldn't be a terrible idea. I think just with the sheer number of money that we're trying to raise, I think having a special earmark for it, especially dedicating it to public safety, it's going to have a better chance. But that's my input on the matter. Councilmember Arth, I'm going to round back to you. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Yes, thank you. Just to remind all of us that as a council and a finance committee, we did look at other options, specifically, do we want to raise the transit occupancy tax? And I became convinced, talking to our guest industry, they really do not want that. It would hurt their businesses. It makes them less competitive. It's not clear what the county's doing. So I'm glad we're staying away from the transit occupancy tax. And, the notion is everybody has their own shopping patterns, but disproportionately a sales tax increase will be borne by those not living in Dunsmuir, and hopefully that will make it more attractive to our voters.
Great, thank you. Is there any other discussion on the topic or a motion?
So I'd just like to point out we really have two different topics here. I think that I would propose that we all agree that we want to go with one. So we really come down to the discussion of special or general, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and anyone can make a motion at any time.
I'd like to make a motion then. It's hard every time I hear the case for the special. I'm, drawn towards it for for the attraction there. We certainly could intend it to be dedicated towards that, but I'd also like to kind of expand the view where the need is actually very general. And law enforcement's the most obvious expense that's increasing, but there are other things that are coming. Our honest position is that we need general funds to keep the general services of the city going. And I just, if I honestly believe that we could pass the 2/3 majority, I might be in favor of it. That being said, I'd like to make a motion to put the general tax at the 50% threshold.
Okay. There's a motion to move forward with a resolution requesting a general tax measure be put on the November 7th ballot to enact a 1.5% increased sales tax. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Right. Motion by Councilmember Bryan, seconded by Councilmember Arth. Is there any other discussion on this item?
I would like to thank the leadership of the Finance Committee for getting us to this point.
Yes, thank you. Any other discussion?
Just one point that part of even why I had to make that motion that way is, if this fails, City Council is going to have to look at very drastic options with the city in the immediate future. Also, we're probably going to have to try for another tax in the near future, and I just don't think we have time to play that. So it's costly to put it on the election, and we have to wait a while.
Yeah. All right. Any other discussion before we move into a roll call vote?
I'd like to make a motion.
There's one there.
So we have a motion on the table to approve the general tax. What were you thinking, Big Dave?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd have to concur with Madam Mayor. I think a special, I think it's going to be more persuasive. I think I'm a fisherman, man. And I think bait is what catches fish. And I think the bait here is our public safety. I think the people will bite. I think they'd be more willing if, like Tim said, if they know what it's for. I mean, I'm really on the fence here. Whatever you guys agree, I'm going to go with you, but I kind of like what Madam Mayor had to say. I think a special is going to be easier to sell. And what it comes down to is we got to sell one of these two items.
Well, I would like to point out that we definitely can discuss the benefits to public safety that this measure would have, and we can even include that in the wording, that's legal as long as we make it clear that it is a general tax. But
it's like, Matthew, it's like Tim said, it's not dedicated.
I know. But
I mean, that's what people like to know. There's a lot of old people that go, hey man, if I'm paying tax and I know what it's for.
But Dave, here's the thing. We've seen what this city votes on already. That's what I said. When it comes to taxes, 60% of the people understand the need for taxes. I don't think we're going to get more in this situation, in this climate, than 60%. No matter what you put on there.
Okay. I'm a team player. Whatever you guys say, I'm also a fisherman, and I truly believe that a little bait's better. But
Councilmember Keisler, you don't have to you don't have to vote aye on this motion. If you do feel that we should do the special tax, you could vote no. And if the majority overrules it, then we would make the motion for a special tax. So you don't have to necessarily agree with everybody else. I mean, like I said, I would prefer a special as well.
Well, and to be clear for the public, the City Council has already voted on the intention, the tax amount, all the other things. This is just which version of it we officially adopt.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, there was already a consensus on the tax itself, the percentage.
I don't feel like we're trying to change things here. We all agree on that. It's just how are we going to present it to them?
Yeah, it's a detail of how we officially go to the voters.
Right.
So I'm going to go to Councilmember Deutsch. Did you have a discussion point or question?
Here we go.
Well, I was just going to say, if Dave wants to continue with his motion, then it's up to you, I guess, to decide whether you want a second or not, right?
Well, we have a motion on the table. You can motion within a motion if we want to get really into.
Yeah, she's right. We've got to vote on the first motion. I retract my motion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It's a little bit easier for Wendy to take minutes if we time, but we can totally compound motions if we want. But we're getting into a little bit more complicated note taking. And Wendy says thank you.
Yeah, we were just putting you to test, Wendy.
So just to reiterate again, the motion on the table is to move forward with a general tax for the ballot. Does everyone on the council understand that?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go into roll call vote. Councilmember Deutsch?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler?
No.
Councilmember Arth?
Aye.
And myself is a no, so it passed 3-2, and so the motion carries, and we will be putting a general tax on the November 7th ballot to enact a 1.5% increase. All right?
I still love you guys.
Yeah.
You know,
It is very okay to not agree with each other all the time. And
Okay.
you have to say thank you, council members, members of the public, for being very cordial on this item, as with other items. I appreciate that. Because really, at the end of the day, we're here to try and do a good job for the city of Dunsmuir. And there's no one right way to do that. And so being able to have a very good discussion like this and still disagree and move forward is a very good thing. And I think it shows a lot of growth and maturity for this council. And I think we're a very good representation of the city. A lot of residents are going to definitely say one might be better than the other. Or
Madam
another.
Mayor, but sometimes it's like walking on glass. You know, you don't know which step to take next.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I was going to say, Juliana, that all sounds good, but I don't like you anymore since you voted against it.
I'm okay with that.
Well,
All right.
I'd like to reiterate that we agree on the fundamentals of this and have unanimously supported it since about this time last year.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All
right.
I'm going to move us to our next item, which is item 11B, which is an important part that matches with this, which would be a resolution authorizing named individuals to submit ballot arguments in support of the measures. City Attorney Kenny, do you want to give a little background
Yes,
on what this is?
I can do that.
Yeah.
What you need to do is, when you put this measure on the ballot, you also have to tell the election clerk who can submit arguments in favor of the measure. So that resolution does that. You can't have more than 5 people, and they have to be voters. So, you know, it's your call who you would want to do that. And you could have you could decide tonight or have a resolution. I think you would probably want to have some city council members do that, but that's a political question rather than anything else. But you don't want to have more than 2, because then if you're drafting the argument, if you have more than 2 city council members, you get a public meeting, and then who knows how long that would take. So it's your discretion, and you could also have name a city council member or 2 and the city manager, and authorize the city manager to appoint a couple of other people if you want. So it's just you need to get the information up to the clerk. I don't know exactly what the deadline is, but now would be a good time to do it.
It's coming up here pretty quick, so I would be in support of the council taking action to name individuals tonight, so that we're not behind the 8 ball on the argument.
Madam Mayor, I nominate Juliana Lucchesi and Matthew to be the 2 names to do the ballot arguments.
So before we go forward with that, Councilmember Keisler, I appreciate your enthusiasm. We have clarifying questions first, and then we'll go to public comment. So does anyone have any clarifying questions on assigning people to submit the ballot argument?
I do.
Well, I do have just one quick one.
But that was.
Sorry, let's go, Councilmember Bryan, then Councilmember Deutsch.
But up to 5 total, you advise no more than 2 for public notice reasons of councilors.
Correct.
And just from my side, I just wanted to, I'm curious while we're talking about it, doesn't there have to be somebody that writes the other opinion too?
We don't sign that, and John, can you clarify that, please?
Yeah, I didn't get that question because these were the people that would write the yes argument in favor of adopting the measure, and the response to the no argument that somebody may submit. So that's what these people would do.
Okay, but I just mean the no argument is not our business, and if somebody steps forward.
Yeah. That's another matter. Not your full control over that.
Are we creating a group?
Councilmember Arth has a question, and he had his hand up, so I'm going to go for Councilmember Arth and then Councilmember Bryan.
Well, so it sounds like there's some urgency to this, and I'm not clear if, for instance, the Chamber of Commerce wants to put a ballot argument in support of the tax measure. Do they do that through this exercise, or do they do that on their own?
Well, they'd have to do that on their own. I'm not sure that the Chamber of Commerce can do what they need to do. For this purpose, the people have to be voters. I don't know if all the Chamber of Commerce are voters.
Okay,
No, I mean, is this just the city supporting the tax, or is other voices as well?
Yeah, your people, you are putting the measure on the ballot. These are the people you authorize to support your measure. If other people want to support, or other people want to oppose, they have to follow whatever the code is, the election code is that permits that.
So really quick clarification. So the ballot arguments that John's talking about here are the arguments that appear in your polling booklet that you get in the mail. So if there's any other organization that wants to support this measure on their own, they can do that. But what we're doing tonight is assigning people to construct the argument that would go into the ballot book that people get at their home. So just to clarify that. And then Councilmember Bryan, go ahead.
Yeah, just following up on that. This is not multiple arguments, even though it's listed ballot arguments. This is just
one.
To produce one document in support of.
Correct, and it has to be 300 words or less. There's a certain requirement in there. Basically, what happens is you have to have people who are registered voters basically you're sponsoring the argument in support for the city. So in this case, the ballot argument, either we can ask Mr. Kenny to draft it for us, and then from there, the people who are assigned to submit it can amend it a little bit if they'd like to personalize it, or we can have the people authorized put that argument language together, as long as it's submitted to the county by the July 13th date, and everybody agrees on how that is. So it's usually one statement, and it can be multiple kind of little sub-paragraphs, no more than 300 words. And then whoever we authorize to submit this, they would have their names sponsored or associated with it in the booklet. Okay. Does anybody else have any clarifying questions?
Questions? No.
Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to open this up for public comment. If there's any members of the public who would like to discuss this item of authorizing people, Wendy is, by the way, just really quick chat, Wendy is saying it's very urgent to get this to the booklet, and it saves us money the quicker we do it. So thank you, Wendy, for that input. But members of the public who may be interested in sponsoring the ballot argument, if you want to speak up now and be considered to be authorized, this would be a good point to do that. Or if you have any just comments in general about the ballot argument in support of the measure, please feel free to do so. Again, you can use the chat function, or you can raise your hand in the participants tab. Going once, going twice. All right, I'm gonna close the public comment on this item and move us into discussion.
Madam Mayor?
Begin with Councilmember Deutsch. Do you have any discussion on the item?
Well, I would just say that in terms of who gets on it, I would look to the recommendations of the Finance Committee.
We could have Finance Committee write the ballot argument as long as the members are within city limits and registered voters.
Madam Mayor, I think that it would be better for the mayor and the vice mayor to support for our people.
A point for the Finance Committee, we do have a member that's just outside city limits because the requirement is to be in Dunsmuir or its sphere of influence.
I still think it looked better with mayor and the vice mayor. I nominate Juliana and Matthew.
I second the nomination.
There you go.
Members of the public at this juncture?
No, it ain't up for debate, dude. You're writing the thing.
Well, so I think, just really quick, so there is a motion on the table to authorize myself and Councilmember Bryan to write the argument. If we want to entertain this motion now and then move on to the discussion of possible other members besides the council members, one of the advantages to having members who are not council members is that it shows a wide acceptance of the argument for this measure, and it is usually advised to have some members of the public or planning commissioners. But there is a motion on the.
You mean support?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I would think that at this point, in terms of timing, we only need these two names. We could come back at the next meeting with recommendations for people to add to the list.
Yeah, probably.
Part of the promoting team.
That's right.
Well, our next regular meeting would be July 2nd, and we're starting to get really close to the due date. And as our deputy city clerk mentioned, the sooner we put this into the booklet, the more money we're able to save doing that.
Okay, clarifying question. That what I understood this was that one group was could the two of you, let's say, assuming we go forward with this, could be doing the writing, but in terms of the group that comes together and promotes it, I mean, that we don't have to decide on who those people are tonight, do we?
Yes, you do.
We do. Okay.
Yeah. In terms of official ballot measure support in the ballot book. However, it's not even our job to reign over the support of it within the citizens.
Right, Councilmember Arth, you have a question.
Well, it's more a comment, which is the real power of the argument in favor, whoever writes it, is going to be based on the budget that the council is going to adopt in the very, very near future. But when the colleagues in the public see the 2-year budget that we're going to be presenting, it's going to dip deeply into our reserves. It's going to result in a number of expenses that we're not going to incur. So I do hope we're not writing the argument in advance of putting the budget together.
Well, the argument doesn't really pertain to the budget itself. It would pertain to the measure. So it would be.
Well, the measure is designed to raise revenues that are so needed, you can't believe it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so there is a motion on the table to authorize myself and Councilmember Bryan as two of the names on the argument. Is there any other discussion on that motion before we move into a vote on that?
Is there some way that we could set it up so that we can get the names in later for the other three? What is the deadline? And when
we basically have to do this in one go.
Oh, because I can't imagine who we're going to pick without even asking.
I have a question, Matthew.
Yes.
Who was it that you were talking about lives outside this? Who did you have in mind?
Oh, no, not outside the city. I had Linda Shaven. She's voiced support both privately with me and in our public meetings throughout this process.
Okay.
Would the council like to take a 10-minute recess to maybe contact a couple of people who may be interested? I wouldn't feel comfortable authorizing someone to be on this that hasn't agreed to that.
Yeah, I would like to make a phone call to Carol Scalco. Yes.
No, I can add something to this. I just spoke to Mark Rowley, and he's willing to take up the cause and he's agreed to round the troops
I
up.
don't believe.
He doesn't live here though.
Oh,
He couldn't be officially on there.
Yeah, the sponsors of the argument have to be registered voters in the city of Dunsmuir.
We have 2 public members on the finance committee.
One doesn't live here, but Mike Delabano does live within city limits.
I'd be happy with Mike Delabano.
Well, we should probably ask him whether he has, publicly voted in support of both of the things tonight, both the tax itself and the general tax version.
All right.
I feel comfortable with him, but if you let us make a couple calls, we might be able to come up with a better roster.
All right, Councilmember Keisler, just for the meeting notes, would you like to rescind your motion at this time for myself and Councilmember Bryan until we can determine if there's other people interested in the next couple minutes?
Are you going to give me 10 minutes?
Yeah, I'm gonna table this.
I concur. I will rescind my motion, and let's do a talk to people. But I need to talk to Carol Scalco. I don't have her phone number. Does anybody?
I do.
Can you call her and have her call me?
Sure.
Thank you, Matthew.
Okay, so I'm gonna move us into a 10-minute recess. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mute all of our mics.
Juliana, Madam Mayor?
Go ahead.
Yeah, before you do that, suppose you have a motion to appoint 2 city council members. I guess you could amend the motion to say authorize those 2 city council members to select 3 other people to sign it.
Well, we don't have to
that's why you got the big money in all the books, John.
And then
You're
when
so
you
smart.
do that, then you complete the resolution and send it up. But the resolution authorizes those
council members.
Yeah.
I like that a lot better. I don't like trying to 10 minutes put together.
Yeah, that's because I don't know if she answered the phone. That's good.
Okay. So it would be, John, to clarify, it would be a motion to appoint.
Yeah, I second John's motion.
So just a second, could I have a little bit of quiet just so that Wendy can write this down too, because we try and take decent notes. So John, just to clarify, it would be a motion to appoint Mayor Lucchese, Councilmember Bryan, and 3 other members.
Authorize those 2 to select 3 other individuals to participate and be signatories to the argument.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm just writing this down so that if Wendy and I can confer later, make sure it's got written correctly.
As a point of clarification, rather than calling him Councilmember Bryan, why don't we put down there Vice Mayor Bryan?
Yeah, Vice Mayor.
See, that was my point, the mayor and the vice mayor.
Yeah.
All right. So the motion on the table is motion to appoint Mayor Lucchese and Vice Mayor Bryan, and to authorize those 2 to select 3 others to write the ballot argument in support.
I concur with that one.
And there should be one other item added to that, and then to execute the promote, whatever you want to call it, but they're the ones then that will be promoting this in the months ahead.
So just going back, so this is just for the names that are on the ballot arguments that go in the booklet. So everybody on this council in their private sector or area can promote this. And I advise them to.
Sure.
It shouldn't just be 2 people running the show. So again, motion, so Councilmember Keisler, you're moving the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second by Councilmember Arth. All right, is there any other discussion on the motion at hand? All right, seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Councilmember Deutsch.
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan.
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler.
Aye.
Councilmember Arth.
Aye.
And myself is an aye, motion carries. So just to reiterate for Wendy and everyone, that is a motion to appoint myself and Vice Mayor Bryan, and authorizes us to select 3 others to write the ballot argument in support of the measure.
Thank you, John. You're my favorite person of the week.
John, you're the man.
For 5 minutes, yeah, okay, thanks.
moving on. John, I don't think we need you for anything else unless City Manager Uhas would like you to stay on.
I think we're good. Thanks,
Okay.
John.
And by the hour, so have a good night, John.
Yeah, okay, good. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, John.
All right.
Bye, John.
All right, thank you, council members. We'll now move into item 11C, which is presentation on budget recommendations made by the Finance Committee.
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilmember Bryan.
as previously referenced, this was only kind of in the works for the agenda if we had the full budget presentation today.
So Blake did give me a presentation. Is this it?
No, we're holding off because it's not complete yet. Finance Committee will look at the final presentation of the budget, discuss it, and then come up with a complete list for the council at the next meeting. So we're not quite ready there yet.
Okay, so you'd like to request a tabling of this item to the next meeting?
I would.
Okay, there's a motion to table the
I
item.
second.
And who was that second?
Me, Big Dave.
Councilmember Keisler?
Yeah.
And this actually relates to the next item. We're just a little behind in the time frame, but we want to keep the overall quality of the product where it should be in terms of.
Okay, so we'll take this one item at a time. So there's a motion to table item 11C to the next meeting, which would be July 3rd, or are you looking at, or July 2nd, excuse me. Are you possibly looking at a special meeting or July 2nd, okay?
July 2nd is the next meeting.
Okay.
Good.
All right. I'm actually just going to quick open this up. Is there any public comment related to the budget presentation being moved to the next meeting? I don't see any comments or raised hands. All right. Council members, is there any discussion on the motion at hand?
No.
Just checking in with the chairman. Are we meeting tomorrow or we're meeting Monday?
We're meeting Monday at the usual time. And for everyone out there, Monday at 4 will be the first opportunity for the public to really take a look at a completed draft of the staff's budget. And Finance Committee will discuss it in its entirety there.
You said 4 o'clock, Matthew?
Yeah, 4 o'clock Monday. It's going to be a Zoom meeting. Hopefully it'll be our last, but we'll see where it goes.
Okay, thank you.
We'll move into a roll call vote. Councilmember Deutsch?
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan?
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler?
Aye.
Councilmember Arth?
Aye.
And myself is an aye. The motion carries. So this item 11C, will be tabled to the next meeting, July 2nd, 2020. We'll move on to item 11D, which is authorize staff to use preliminary budget 2022 in accounting system effective July 1, 2020. Councilmember Bryan or City Manager Uhas?
This is just to make sure that we're still able to pay our bills because we will not have, if we have a July 2nd meeting, that's when, we're hopeful that the budget is passed. In between that time, we want to still be able to pay our bills.
I think there's only one point that probably should be available here. If we could make sure that council has, I know the budget we're talking about, the working preliminary budget. Well, if anyone has any questions about it before they'd want to, it's pretty much a continuation. Nothing major will happen in the 2 days before we actually review it. We did this last year for a matter of 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah. Are there any other clarifying questions from council members before we open this up for public comment? All right, seeing no questions, is there any public comment on the authorization for city staff to use a preliminary 2-year budget in the accounting system effective July 1? All right, seeing no public comment, I'll move us into discussion. Is there any discussion on the item at hand?
I believe we should pay our bills.
I'd like the motion to authorize staff to use preliminary budget 2020 in a current system effective 7/1/20.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Councilmember Keisler, second by Councilmember Deutsch. Is there any discussion?
Just to reiterate, it's very disappointing that we don't have all of this settled in time. We had the best intentions in the finance committee. We laid it out starting January 1st, what we're going to do each week. But COVID hit, and it's really caused a disruption in the schedule. We hope to be doing this a month early next year, as we plan to do it this year. And I apologize that it's going to be late. However, we want to maintain the quality, not compromise the thoroughness with which the staff has confidence that this is the budget going forward.
Madam Mayor, if I might.
Councilmember Kaiser, go ahead.
Matthew, you do not need to apologize for anything, my friend. I'm honored to be serving on this council during these times that we've never seen anything like this. We've all had, this year for the city of Dunsmuir has been like no other in history. We haven't had any events. We shut down. We're not used to shutting down. Hell, we're used to going over to each other's house and having a beer or a soda or whatever. But now we sit in our yards and we wave to each other. Now it's with masks on. So please don't apologize. I'm proud of all the work that you guys have done. I'm proud to be on this council doing everything that we're doing through these times. Madam Mayor, I got to give you a prop. You have led the way through these with flying colors. So this council, there's nothing that anybody can say about this council because we've done everything right. We've done everything by the book. I mean, and it's been hard. So I'm proud of our finance committee. You guys, you're taking a beating. I mean, you really are. I thought I wanted to do it. No. We are citizens who have stepped up to try and do a job. And we are doing it in times, in what is it? It's an epidemic, a pandemic. Oh my gosh. We're wearing masks. We can't do things. So I think we're doing a pretty good job. And like I say, I am proud to be part of this council. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Big Dave. And if you don't mind, Madam Mayor, I'd like to retract that apology.
Yeah, there you go. Don't be sorry, man. You were working hard, guys.
All right, so seeing no other discussion on the motion at hand, we'll move into a vote to approve the preliminary budget for 2020 to 2022 into the accounting system effective July 1, 2020. Councilmember Deutsch?
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan?
Aye.
Councilmember Kaiser?
Aye.
Councilmember Arth?
Aye.
And myself is also an aye. Motion carries, and we'll move forward with the preliminary budget as of July 1 as we put together the formal budget. So thank you, gentlemen. That being said, that moves us into our future agenda items, which this was a old slide for tonight. As I said before at the last meeting, we're focusing mainly on budget items and a couple of enforcement ordinance cleanup items at the city staff level. Do we have any other future agenda items that we want to mention now so I can put them on the list to be considered in the future, or are we okay for tonight?
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilmember Kessler.
I just had a little tickle in my heart right now. Are you ready for this? June 29th, I believe, was a motion to make it a Big Dave and Karen Day. And everybody in the city of Dunsmuir was encouraged to do one act of kindness. June 29th is coming up. It's our 1-year anniversary. And I'm still hoping that everybody will look forward to doing one act of kindness.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. I was thinking about that the other day, and I'm like, I couldn't remember quite exactly what the date was.
The 29th, baby.
Yes. So please, if you can, do something nice for your neighbors, do something nice for your community. I know there's plenty of work at the Park and Rec District that maybe there could be some volunteers to help with. So please do so. Councilmember Art?
Well, I'm just continuing to be concerned that with our switch to Zoom meetings, and actually we had more public tonight than we usually do, but I hope we return to face-to-face meetings. It's going to take some time to figure out what is acceptable for a committee meeting, what is acceptable for a council meeting. So I hope you're working with the city manager on when we return to that state. In the meantime, I wonder if there's any interest in sending out a letter with a utility bill mailing, letting the people know what we've been up to the last 3 months or so, everything from the budget to pursuing a tax increase to having our code enforcement officer on board, but just to kind of build on the visioning exercise that you and the city manager started. I would hate to just go dark on that, and it will be important to have community support as we get into the budget and election phase in the months ahead. Thank you.
Just to comment on the face-to-face meetings, so just to let everyone know, really it comes back to state allowing people to start and meet in person again, face-to-face meetings. So at this point, the state has not advised Brown Act committees go back to meeting face-to-face at this point. It's an ever-evolving situation. You know, with the uptick in cases right now, I think we'll still remain on Zoom, at least for the month of July, unless we see a complete drop in cases. It just basically comes down to state guidance on the face-to-face meetings. I understand some people prefer them and have some difficulty with the Zoom function, but unfortunately, it's the similar sentiment as the Dunsmuir pool. You know, we're doing things to keep people safe and ensure, you know, a healthy atmosphere for our residents who may want to participate, as well as our council members and city staff. We will be in discussion, and I know Wendy has also probably been looking at the Brown Act requirements and seeing what other people are doing. So I mean, it's an ever-evolving situation, but unfortunately, until there's additional state guidance for face-to-face Brown Act meetings, we're probably going to stay on Zoom for a little bit longer.
Madam Mayor.
And if I can add,
Madam Mayor.
to that.
I'm just going to, Councilmember Keisler and then City Manager Uhas.
It's imperative that we go back to what Peter was saying right there. What Peter was saying was he was hoping, as well as I do, now that he mentioned it. By the way, Peter, that was good. We need to do some kind of way with the flyer with our utility bills to do an informative thing to let the people know what we've been doing, what we're up to, and about this vote coming up. So the tax, this is a good way to let them know, give them a little bit of insight, so when it comes time to vote, they know kind of what they're voting for. Right, Peter? Did I say that right?
So really quick, before we go into that, I'm going to go to City Manager Uhas after this first thing. So just to clarify, the city cannot do that. So the city itself cannot promote within, like, the utility bill. The city cannot print things off. It has to be done through private individuals.
But like Peter said, can you see, let them know what we've been doing and where we're at? And
correct. We can do an update, but again, we can't promote the measure, and we have to be very careful about that. But really, for the sake of time, City Manager Uhas, did you have anything else to add on that?
Yeah, just really quickly. Yeah, I think we all want to get back to face-to-face. There's just, when we do get the ability to go back face-to-face, there's going to be one wrinkle, and that is we'll all have to be wearing masks, and it's going to be difficult to communicate.
All right, thank you. All right, Councilmember Bryan, did you have a future agenda item discussion, or?
I just realized that the time of year we're in and being a little late there, the next meeting I think will be entirely consumed by budget presentation and discussion.
Yep.
And I would also maybe anticipate an emergency meeting the following Thursday on July.
I will not be in attendance if we do that, just to let you know.
Yeah, I might be out of town too.
No worries. We don't have to.
Yeah.
We could get it all done in a night. But we'll just have to, at the very least, it'll be the next meeting when we officially adopt the budget. If we don't put a consensus that night.
Matthew, smile. Damn. There you go.
All right, gentlemen. If you have any other future agenda items, feel free to email City Manager Uhas or myself. But just for the sake of time tonight, I'm going to move us into item number 13, which is adjournment. And so if anyone has any questions related to any items presented or discussed today, please feel free to email Todd Uhas, our City Manager, or Wendy Perkins, who is our Deputy City Clerk. Officially.
Madam Mayor, I think it's imperative that you let the people know when is the Park and Recreations meeting, so that the people could have a chance to go and talk to the Park and Recreations. Not that I'm changing my mind. I still concur with their assessment, but the people want to know when to go, and I see that they keep asking, and no one has responded.
I believe that they're pretty much all off of this call. I don't think any of the original people who wanted still on here, but I'm not sure when that meeting is going to be.
It's actually the same times we are. It's the first and the third, and it's at like an hour before us.
Mike Rodriguez, would you like to let us know when the next Park and Rec meeting is?
Yes, we meet the second Thursday of each month at 6, and I would invite everyone to check out our district or dunsmuirparks.org webpage. We've updated it over the last couple of days regarding the pool and other facilities, so check out the webpage, dunsmuirparks.org.
Thank you, Mike.
Our regular second Thursday at 6.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Right, seeing no other announcements or discussion, we're going to move into adjourn. All those.
I make a motion to adjourn, Madam Mayor.
Motion to adjourn by Councilmember Keisler. Is there a second?
Aye, second.
Councilmember Deutsch, I'll give that one to you. All in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Good job,
nays?
people.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.